Office is evolving, becoming simpler, more collaborative, more powerful. Its icons are evolving too, into a visual language that reflects the powerful simplicity and harmony of the Office apps. Unique symbols that adapt to their context across platforms, across devices. It's a new look at color, lighter, more vibrant hues, but still so familiar. A connected visual system that speaks to a faster, more intelligent, frictionless experience, designed to reflect the more connected, collaborative way we work today. It's the look of the new Office.
All right, it is Friday, September 27th. I'm Todd Kidda, live from St. Louis. It's Office Flash Friday. Nick, hello, how are you?
I'm outstanding. Thanks, Todd, and thanks for having me on this week.
Yes, you're absolutely welcome for that. So, as you know, that's not Doug Splinter up in that window over there. That's Nick Stillings. He is up in Minneapolis, though.
Yes. And I've been drinking coffee
there.
for about 6 hours, so I can talk as fast as Doug. We'll see if it works this morning.
You might have needed to do 8. I'm not sure that you are going to get that done in only 6 hours of coffee. But we got a few cool things this week. I've got some Power BI stuff. Got a little M365 Office on the web updates with some really cool stuff. And we have gone GA with a very important security product. So, and Nick, you're going to be talking about some Teams adoption best practices. Yes?
Yeah, yes, I am. I'm a customer success manager for Microsoft Teams. So my mission in life is helping people take advantage of Teams once they've got it deployed and drive end-user change management, training, and behavior adoption. We're consistently seeing while you get the service up, and there is a lot involved with that, especially if you're coming from Skype. Once you've got it done, and you still have those users that are doing things like sending attachments in email, it's incredibly frustrating because they're not taking advantage.
Let's do this. Why don't we switch over to Nick? And I think Nick, why don't you give a little bit of an intro over to the workshop that you're going to be running, talk a little bit about how it works, and then dive into I think it's like an 8-part series, right? Maybe just dive into the details and give people a hint of what's to come, and let's talk about how people can register for that.
That sounds great. I'll do this about 10 to 15 minutes and toss it back to you for an update on Power BI, Power Apps. A couple cool things are coming up in AI. So, and then Todd, chime in. I prepped for about 30 minutes. So anything you add, if you have a question, I know other people are going to have it too. So, great. Yeah. So what I've been doing for the last couple of years at Microsoft since I left the MTC organization has been focused on adoption and change management around modern workplace. And what we found is a lot of organizations may have someone who does this. So if you already have people that are ProSci certified or change practitioners, this series I'm about to introduce, I would just consider it as a tool in the toolbox. But if you don't have someone in that role, or if you're primarily focused in your organization on getting the service turned on and moving on to the next thing, which is where a lot of us have to sit. I wanted to share that I'm going to be doing this 8-week series where, think of it kind of like as a personal trainer around adoption and change management. I'm taking the resources that are already available from Microsoft. So I'm really trying not to create anything new because we got a lot out there already, but putting a little bit of structure around it with a project plan to walk you through how you do everything from recruiting champions to identifying stakeholders to preparing for a launch activity or a launch event. So actually, let me stop there, Todd. How does that sound? Questions so far? Feel free to qualify.
No, I think it's great because I think, Nick, organizations are, I think a lot of the organizations that I run into are in this mode of, well, we've turned it on, and why doesn't anybody know how to use it correctly or appropriately? Or what is the appropriate way to use it?
Right.
And we get even just knowledge out there of how to go. So I see this all the time, Nick.
Yeah, and so this one's focused on Teams. The discipline, though, is a soft skill. It works with anything, with any cloud service, or candidly, any kind of a change management organization has to go through. So let me give you a little bit more detail. What we'll be doing is every Friday, October 4th through November 22nd at 11 a.m. Central. So it'll happen right after Office Flash Friday if you just want to stay on, but I'll be recording them as well. I know.
Yeah.
I figured, I'm trying. What do they do like in television where they have like a good lead in to the weaker show? That's the strategy that I'm doing.
It'll be like the turnover to the Sunday morning political shows, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You've already watched someone amazing. You might as well stay on because it's too hard to change channel. So, we'll drop this into the Flash Friday show notes. The main landing page is aka.ms/fall into teams, and I'm doing this based on a series I did last spring called Spring into Teams. Get it? So this fall. In 8 weeks, you can learn everything we have to share about the resources we have for Teams change management. And then, so I'm doing a weekly broadcast. It'll be a Microsoft 365 live event at ak.ms/fall teams broadcast. Optionally, this is optional. If you'd like to, you can register for the series at Fall Teams Reg, and that's just an Office form that I have. I just need names and email, and then what I will do is I will invite you into a team as a guest user in the Microsoft tenant, where I'll be dropping some artifacts and be doing Q&A throughout the week, and then I'll also add that to the sway here at the main link as well too. That's totally optional, and you can also manage your other privacy and contactability preferences on that form as well too. It's not going anywhere to anybody but me, but because I am asking for your email, I just want to kind of call in or call out. You'd be opting in to other people to be able to see your name inside that team in our guest tenant. So again, I go to ak.ms/fall into teams, and this is what the 8 weeks looks like. Emily, if we go full screen on this, we're planning to go through just sort of standard change management best practices around Microsoft Teams. These actually come right out of Microsoft Docs. So we have a list of change management kind of guidance that we give around Teams and our other Microsoft 365 offerings. The first week we'll talk about forming the team and collecting your stakeholders, and then I've got resources and artifacts that we'll share each week. For example, in week 1, I'll step through some content that we have that you can use to do things like recruit business users or a success owner or a sponsor, an executive, to say, hey, we'll kind of help provide oversight as you go through this rollout. And then each week, we'll step through another common area of change management best practices. What I've gotten really good feedback on this because we're taking resources that Microsoft already has and highlighting those each week and showing you where to find those. So for example, in the Microsoft Fast Track Center, we have a lot of artifacts to do things like if you're doing a kickoff campaign and you want to drop digital signage into your organization or send out emails or put up little placards in the company cafeteria. We'll be stepping through that in the week of October 25th when we talk about how to do an awareness campaign of a new tool that's coming. Right. The other thing I did is we do have, if you go to our Success with Teams link at ak.ms/success with teams, it takes you out to a landing page in docs.microsoft.com. And there we have a Microsoft project plan for Microsoft Teams that you could load into Microsoft Project or Enterprise Project Management. I dropped that same plan into Microsoft Excel and just have a simple Gantt chart based list of activities. And then what we'll do is each week we'll do a little check-in. So I'll have this shared out. You can use it yourself. You can pull it. We can't yet import it directly into Planner, but if that goes live during the session, I'll tweak it. But you can pull it into whatever tool that you're using, and then I'll just kind of check back in and over live Q&A in the series, just ask people how they're doing, any obstacles or any best practices that they have to share to go through this. So again, if you've got an existing process for this kind of motion, this is not intended to supplement that or replace it. Yours is probably more mature. This one's pretty basic. But if you don't have someone who does change management or does user adoption, there might be some nice tools in the toolbox with this. So we'll finish up with a variety of awareness and in-user training resources, going out to the stuff that Microsoft has out there, things that you can bring in and use yourself. We'll continually be referring back to our standard guidance that's up already in docs.microsoft.com. So if you have access to that or reviewed it, it'll be a nice landing page. And then we'll be calling out all the different resources we have to take you through. All right, I love this idea of the user supporting themselves. How do I get started with that? We'll cover that off in week 3 as we talk about champions. One final caveat or just kind of thought, this is focused on in-user adoption and change management. I'm assuming, I know ASSUME, that Teams is enabled, Teams is working. So we have other resources to help with, from Skype to Teams, for team success planning, for Teams network assessments. I'll reference those, but I'm not going to cover those in this series. This is really just on the adoption and change management for end users portion of rolling out the project.
So actually, that's a great call out, right? Because it's always good to kind of have people understand what the scope of the content is. I was actually kind of wondering more on the other side, the advanced side, right? So as people have adopted and are leveraging it and creating teams and spinning up and just being productive, do you have any pointers? Not that I would, or even like appendix style things around developers or more advanced things and how to extend teams. I obviously that's out of the scope of this as well, but I think that's going to be on people's minds as well, especially from
we'll touch on that. Some of that we'll touch on during week 8, because what we kind of see is that forming, storming, norming, reforming. One resource that I love, and you can bing this after today, is Matt Wade's Etiquette with Teams PDF that he published from AvePoint. So we go through like best practices on using Teams and building it out a little bit. When we go into the business scenarios, we'll touch on that a little bit as well too. But I'm trying to keep it pretty generic, so we're not going to go like deep into a single workload. But I will reference places like the Microsoft tech community where people are talking about this as well too.
Great. Oh,
did that answer your question?
Absolutely.
So yeah. And then last thing too is when we get to the training and tips and best practices, the Microsoft Ignite conference is going to kind of fire up right in the middle of this thing. So I'll recap anything that's relevant to adoption and change management. I'm sure we'll have some capabilities that are announced, and we usually typically have some really good sessions that then become available on demand out of Orlando after that week. I'll refer to those kind of mid-November as well too.
So Nick, just so I'm clear, and maybe it's small, I can't read it on the screen right now. You have registration link in the aka.ms/fall into teams link. You can register from there.
Yep. You don't have to register to watch all these. If you register, I'll just invite you into a team, and just it makes it a little bit easier to get to stuff, and you can ask questions a little bit easier.
That's awesome.
Otherwise,
I think people should be thinking about blocking their calendar for 8 weeks starting October. What was it?
October 4th, 11 a.m. Central, and I'll record each one of these, and I'll have recordings linked off of this landing page, ak.ms/fall into teams, all one word.
Well, if you don't mind, are you going to be posting those recordings anywhere, like YouTube or just? Okay, great. So we'll link to those each week, maybe on Flash, just to kind of.
Oh, sure! Wow! I'll gladly steal some of your credibility to promote those recordings. Thanks, man.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. So no, that's exciting. I think a lot of people are going to be able to benefit from this because I think, again, a lot of customers I talk to these days are beyond the point of thinking about maybe Teams someday, but not quite to the point where they have super mature kickoff plans and rollouts and change management around it. So I think this is a good. The timing on this is pretty good.
Yep. And I keep running into people like, we got it deployed, we turned it on, everything's working, and they're still like, why are we still running around with flash drives, or why are we not using Teams? They're using another tool. And
anecdotally, when people come in, and I'm a data guy, right? But I still talk to people about everything that Microsoft does, and I talk to people about Teams as they're rolling out, and I show them one of the best things I think I can do is show them my Teams, right? Like, what does my thing look like? How do I collaborate with people? Because I live in it these days. And they immediately freak almost because they see all these teams that I'm in. And they're like maybe in like a team, right? And it's just this. So I think helping people wrap their minds around, what is it like to collaborate in a team-based, channel-based tool, and why being in 100 teams is not necessarily a scary or bad thing.
Right. Oh, and I'll let you know, Todd, when we get to week 7 on measuring communicating success, because I'll go into Microsoft 365 usage analytics and the Teams usage reports and the Teams admin center, because that's part of it too, is we want to be able to go in and see, hey, how are people actually using this, and are they doing deep usage? So, and how many teams are they a part of? So we'll look at that as we talk about governance.
That's great, man. Love it. Cool. So anything else to add there, Nick?
No, you mentioned it's a quiet week, but I know you still had a couple of announcements too, or things you wanted to talk about that you sent over. Do you want to pick it up, and I'll be your color commentary?
Right on. So perfect. So let's just jump right into it. I have a couple Power BI things. This is actually a pretty big, as you recall, we do kind of I think every other month or quarter releases of the Power BI report server, which always ships with its corresponding Power BI desktop. This is a big release. And for the most part, these releases end up being roll-ups of things that we've talked about in the last few months, which is also a good time to review things that have already been shipped into the live service and or Power BI desktop for the PowerBI.com service people. So the reporting pane has been updated with all the default colors that we've talked about recently, visual level filters for slicers, So I'm not going to go over every one of these because it's a lot, but there's a few worth calling out. The table and matrix total label customization, because not everything is a total, right? Sometimes things are averages, so we can change and modify that. Being able to have the icon sets and table matrix, that was a big one that shipped in the service a few months back. That's also now available to our report server people. And I'm looking for, yeah, there's more of those animated GIFs for those kinds of things. The new filter pane is now GA in report server. So that was a big deal that shipped a few months back. That's now available to folks in the report server. Grouping of visuals, our report authors love that one. That's where I can take a couple visuals, visually group them together like we've been able to do like in PowerPoint and other such programs for a very long time, and then drag them around together, right? So
yeah, I think especially for like custom dashboards, or when you take a visual group that tells a story all together, this one I think is kind of huge because I think part of the benefit of the service is the storytelling aspects that kind of let you see. I once had a mentor say you need the numbers and you need the story because the strategy comes from story, and this gives us a great way to see both of those together.
Yeah, and what's happened to your point, a pattern that's emerged visually with these Power BI reports is kind of blocking out different sections or groups of the page where I might have a header with some top level metrics that are just numbers. I might have maybe some navigation or other kind of KPIs going down the left. And then I might have my main bar charts and line charts kind of in the middle, bottom right. And being able to group those all together is super handy to kind of tell that story. The things that shipped a little bit back around color and text themes is now shipping in here. And I want to jump down to the data prep stuff because that's pretty cool. We now are able to, I know the M IntelliSense has been improved, right? So being able to see the parameters, because M is super powerful, and that's kind of when you shift Power BI into like the 5th gear, when you are learning M and you're doing some of those more advanced data prep things. So the more that the tool can surface to you what the function does, what parameters it's expecting, is the better, rather than having to crash out over into the documentation page. Split by positions. And the last one I wanted to show here too is being able to copy your data profiling information to your clipboard. And this is a really recent one. So you're seeing, I think, a more rapid pace of folding of the innovations gone into the service back into the report server. I think this only shipped in the service maybe a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I really like the pace that we're seeing on the report server updates, and I think report server is becoming quite a mature product at this point. So this one is pretty cool. So it's a new feature Friday for paginated reports. We now have comments. So we added comments for Power BI reports not so long ago, and now we've added comments for paginated reports. The main difference is going to be here that on the Power BI reports, you could do this at a visual level, which was really, really cool. So I could call out this particular bar chart. SSRS or paginated reports rather isn't quite the same from a how the report is built perspective. So the comments are really at a report level. So I think that's still pretty cool. I can still mention people and bring people into the conversation to ask about a particular metric or a particular report page to do that.
I was just going to ask what you see the use cases for that. I think as we're seeing the app mention capability roll across the entire service, it's just incredible. You're always vying for attention, and this is a great way to bring someone in saying, hey, I need your additional insight from context on this. And the fact that it's going to surface the way other notifications do is, to me, is just huge. I'm in the world of trying to manage my notifications. I don't know if you're in the same boat right now, and make sure I don't miss out. This gives me a great tool to do that for analytics.
Well, just from thinking about context and convenience, right? Rather than, because in the past, you might have a hallway conversation on IAM and say, hey, Bob, I am Susie, and says, hey, why is the number weird? Well, what number on what page on what report? Here, I'm just bringing that person directly to the view that I have, so that there's less confusion, less work on both sides, and really reducing of friction. I think reduction of friction is, like, for me, the number one way to stay productive. So I'm pretty excited about that. So secure embed support, that's been around for Power BI reports for a while. Now I can do secure embed for organizational paginated reports, which also supports URL parameters, which shipped not too long ago as well. So that's pretty exciting that I'm now able to take those paginated reports and maybe put it in like a SharePoint page or wherever I need to inside my organization. This one I didn't see coming, but I think it's pretty cool. I'm actually going to crash over to GitHub here, because what we've shipped is, this was another intern project. I'm not sure we called that person out, but kudos to our intern. that worked on this migration project. I have a lot of customers, Nick, that are asking about how to do migrations from SSRS on-prem. So server reporting services that's been around for well over 10 to 15 years at this point. Migrating those RDL files over to paginated Power BI reports. And it's not a lot of work, but there's some things that need to be checked, such as shared data sources, making sure that the data sources that are in that report are compatible. So providing a summary and kind of an overview, even if it's just you're taking stock of, well, here's my corpus of reports on-prem, what's migratable over to Power BI with little to no touch.
And people have that thoroughly documented today, right, to ensure an easy and simple migration?
Oh, sure. Exactly. That's exactly right, Nick. That's why we needed this utility. But no, this is pretty cool. I was pretty excited to see this. I think this is going to help a lot of people that are going through that migration effort or just kind of assessment effort. So take a look at it. And because it's on GitHub, you can check out the source. You can submit pull requests, and that will be a great way to enhance the rest of the community. So awesome. I love that we're doing this more out in the open. One more Power BI thing. Template apps, right? So template apps, those are the things that are replacing content packs from the days of past. We are now enabling updates. So if a author of a template has pushed an update to AppSource, you can now pull in that update and basically choose to overwrite the existing version.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yes, no, it's. I mean, this is, to me, like, this now kind of makes this template capability really a real feature, right? In my mind.
Well, yeah, because those authors are getting feedback on how these things are being used and iterating in real time, but then you essentially had to kind of rehydrate the entire report to take advantage of the new layout.
Absolutely. So the first question, I don't know, Nick, if it's already come to your mind, is how does this deal with customizations, right? So you install, the example they give is the Project Online template app. So you bring that in, V1, we make an update to the template. You've made some customizations in the meantime. How do we handle that? Well, it's actually pretty straightforward. Really, we're calling out that you're going to need to do a save as and basically clone what you have, or else it will get overwritten. The existing configuration will be maintained, right? And it will be upgraded in place. But if you've done any kind of customizations to the reports that we've shipped, you can't assume that those will be saved for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So either do a save as or a clone on the dashboard, and you'll be good to go. And also, I thought this was cool as well. Some of the best ways to learn and kind of understand some of the capabilities are to look at what other people have built. When I was a developer, the best way to learn something was always looking at other people's code. So we're actually, for us, for the templates that were developed by Microsoft, and for templates that were chosen by other third-party authors to include, we'll now give you the PBIX file. So if you just go over to this template app samples, those, for example, like GitHub, MailChimp, Jira. So even if you just kind of want to learn how somebody did something and take a look and see what the source file looked like, that's a nice way to kind of look at those things. And we are calling out that content packs are going bye-bye. Yeah, so really, this is really soon. So by the end of September, most of the service content packs will be deprecated, and all of the Power BI apps on AppSource will be template apps. So if you're still relying on service content packs, it's time to let go and move on.
I'm an old SharePoint guy, so I have a kind of a love-hate relationship with the word content pack. You know, means something different over there, but yeah.
That's a good point. Yep. So yeah, different connotation there, but still the same. Yep. These are deprecated. They've been deprecated for a while, and they're going to be going away pretty soon. So please take note of that and act accordingly. All right. So this next one, I am just going to tease because this is really. I think this is Doug's. Upset with me if I didn't leave it for him. But I would also be remiss if I didn't just at least mention that Azure Sentinel, after being announced earlier this year, is now GA, right? So the cloud native SIM that's based on AI, machine learning, and all the data and telemetry that we're getting across doing all the things that we do on the web and on the internet is now GA. So this is exciting. Definitely go out and check out this post from Ann Johnson. I know that Doug's going to want to be talking about this more in depth in following weeks, so I am just going to tease it. I'm not going to go into this one. But Nick, I wanted to give you a chance. Did you have any thoughts on Sentinel going GA and kind of our place in the marketplace and those kinds of things?
Well, no, I'll say that for Doug too. I'm in my team's mindset. One of the things that I love about our solutions just across the board is the fact that we have the security and governance constraints around everything. A challenge I am often running into is working with other applications that are similar. And this just kind of gives me one more tool in the toolbox that I can share with my customers when they're thinking about, all right, how do we use AI to proactively ensure that we've got the best security constraints as possible in place for our organization.
Yep. No,
So let me save the details for Doug. He'll be disappointed if he flies back and we've already stolen his thunder.
Yep. I just wanted to tease that one, so I'm not even going to scroll down. So you're welcome, Doug. So this one, I discovered this feature. There's a couple features in here that I'm super excited about. So this is the M365 web kind of updates and a couple desktop things. This first feature blew my mind a little bit. I'm just going to be honest. Which is really ironic that I just said right? Because this is those things. It's called, and keep in mind right away, this is for Office on the web. And what is it? It's I'm going to make sure I get the word right. It's presenter coach for PowerPoint in the web. So this is pretty amazing. So this is going to allow you to make a presentation and go through it live without another human, right? Because a lot of times when you're practicing your presentation, you got to go get your mom or your dad or coworker or whoever.
I always thought if I can deliver it to my grandma, then I've landed the business value. I'm explaining it clearly enough.
I think that's probably a good thing. So I hope Grandma Stillings would like that. So what it does though is you basically go into presentation mode. I'm trying to find a good screen share here. I'm not going to play a video because I don't want the audio to go through. Yeah. But basically, it's looking for like looking out of 8 different categories. So things like pacing. Am I talking too fast? Am I talking too slow? Things like that. Looking for things like usage of the words
yes.
So that's kind of funny that I kind of started this with an The other thing too is looking for inclusive language, right? So the example that I saw in here is somebody said while they were doing their presentation, we're looking for the best man for the job. Well, maybe there's another way that you could have phrased that to be more inclusive. Yeah. The other thing that I recall that it's looking for is, are you just reading your slides, right? So it's comparing what you're saying to what you have on your slides and saying, well, you know what, you're basically just reading your slides. You need to think a little more about just internalizing the content and just using the slides as a reference point rather than, again, just kind of reading the book to the audience.
It drives me crazy when I've got a speaker that confuses a handout with a visual aid, right?
Exactly.
And this will kind of help with that.
Back to one of my comp sci classes in college where basically we just went to watch the teacher read us the slides. That was pretty exciting. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, I love this overall. Oh, Emily, will you flip to me a second? I'll compliment with one thing, Todd, because we hit one other milestone list last week, and that is PowerPoint Designer. So this is part of this. Well, we just talked about the Presentation Coach and also Designers, this whole collection of AI capabilities in Office 365. They're helping users take advantage of known best practices as they do their work. So the Designer, that's one where like you drop an object in the slide and it shows you different ways it can make it pretty for you. We just hit over 1 billion slides have been used against Designer since we released it 3 years ago. So it's just kind of a cool milestone. We also added just a tiny bit more guidance to that. If you're a corporate marketing person, you can actually create custom PowerPoint templates that work with the Designer. That's a question I often get is like, yeah, it's really cool you auto-generate slides, but they don't match our corporate brand. So I'll leave this for follow-up. If you just bang a custom Designer in PowerPoint, that'll do it. But just cool.
Designer, and that hockey stick growth is amazing. I would have never guessed, if you would have asked me to guess how many slides with Designer, I would have never guessed. I probably would have guessed.
It's amazing.
Like 10% of that.
I'm just the teeniest bit sad because I'm actually a decent PowerPoint designer myself. So this is like a special skill set I have, and it's actually like AI and automation are slowly pushing that out. But what that means then, there's a bell curve. I'll be able to focus more on the things that are really valuable, like my connection with the audience, and Coach will help me do that too. So that's just very cool to continue to see those AI capabilities come into Office 365.
I love it. So a couple more things real quick, and then we'll wrap up. Over on my side. So we have now inking on Office for the web. Inking on a web page in PowerPoint. Who would have thought that would ever happen? We live in the future, Nick. This is amazing. This one's very cool. Maybe I don't have enough time to do it today. Maybe I'll demo this next week. Being able to do templates on the whiteboard app is awesome. I don't know if we're ever going to open this up to be so that people can create their own templates, but the templates that we provide out of the box are pretty neat. So like doing some Kanban, sprint planning, some project planning, brainstorming, SWOT analysis. There's probably a good, like 8 or so templates So they're pretty cool. And as you can see, the animated GIF here is kind of going through, showing the collaboration piece. People are liking this stuff. And so you can do like real-time votes. So really cool in the classroom, really cool for ideation and planning. I'm pretty excited about.
Keeps you on track with kind of known best practices. As a checklist guy, I love that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I was just actually talking to my friend Brad here about the checklist manifesto this morning. So the other thing that we have here is bringing in more, speaking of education, bringing in more education-based 3D models into PowerPoint. So that's pretty cool. That's all I got.
If you work with 3D models, play with the morph transition. You can waste a weekend just watching that stuff.
You know what? If you recall, you're the one that taught me morph back in Minneapolis. So I use the heck out of that, and it's really useful. Actually, before I was going to ask, I see that you've been on Twitter since September of 2008.
Oh my God! Yeah,
one tweet ever. That's right. That's pretty cool. That's got to be some kind of record.
Everything so I think I shared with you. I'm working through a lot of middle school self-esteem issues. Everything I hear about social media is that it increases your anxiety. So I've just been a lurker.
Right. It took you 11 years to work up the courage to do a single tweet.
Yeah.
But I wanted to call out your tweet because I know that you're going to be doing your team's adoption framework workshop. And if can people get a hold of you here? Are you going to be checking this, or should we stay?
Yeah, no, I jump on it after when I'm running this thing every 8 weeks. So I'll be watching that, and then also at the ak.ms/follow the teams. I even put my email up there. So if you're feeling really 1995, you can reach out to me that way as well.
Awesome. So I'll throw in your link to your workshop in the show notes. You guys should register for that. We'll be posting the updates. Nick, it was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to work with you and talk with you. So thank you for joining. I hope everyone has a great and super safe weekend. Enjoy the beginning of fall here, and we'll see you next week.